Team Canada hasn't even finished celebrating the last best-on-best tournament, and analysts are already building the roster for the next one. And here's the part that should get every Oilers fan's attention. 2 Edmonton players are being written in as nearlocks, but a third one is stuck in roster purgatory because of a decision that might have already cost Canada a gold medal once. Stick around, because by the end of this video you'll know exactly why one Oilers defenseman snub is being called one of the biggest mistakes in recent Team Canada history, and why the people in charge might be about to make it again. We're still a few years out from the 2028 World Cup of Hockey, but that hasn't stopped the hockey world from speculating. 3 respected analysts at Daily Faceoff, Stephen Ellis, Scott Maxwell, and Matt Larkin, each built out their own projected Team Canada roster independently. Forwards, defense, goaltenders, all of it. And when 3 different people with 3 different perspectives sit down separately and build a 23-man roster from scratch, disagreements are almost guaranteed. Hockey debates like this usually turn into arguments before they turn into anything close to agreement. And yet, when you line up all 3 lists side by side, something interesting happens. Out of dozens of possible names across the entire country, all 3 of them landed on the same 2 Oilers making the cut: Connor McDavid and Evan Bouchard. Let's start with the easy one. Nobody is losing sleep debating whether Connor McDavid makes this roster. At this point, leaving him off would be less of a snub and more of a national scandal. But what's worth talking about isn't whether he makes it, it's what he's already proven on the international stage, because this isn't projection anymore, this is a track record. At the 4 Nations face-off, McDavid put up 3 goals and 5 points across 4 games. And it wasn't just volume, it was the moment. He scored the golden goal that won the whole tournament for Canada in overtime. That's the kind of performance that gets replayed for decades, the kind fans bring up years later just to relive it. Then came the Olympics. Canada walked away with silver, but McDavid personally walked away with 2 goals and 13 points. A staggering total for any tournament, let alone one against the best players alive. 2 tournaments, 2 different formats, 2 completely different pressure levels, and McDavid was arguably Canada's best player in both of them. So it's no surprise that all 3 analysts didn't just put him on the team, they put him at center of the top line, flanked by Macklin Celebrini and Wyatt Johnston. If that line ever actually steps on the ice together in 2028, opposing coaches are going to lose sleep just watching the matchup sheet. But now here's where the story gets a lot more interesting. Evan Bouchard was left off the 4 Nations face-off roster. He was left off the Olympic roster too. Twice, Canada assembled its best possible group of players, and twice, one of the most dangerous shots in the entire league didn't get an invite. Now, that's frustrating on its own. But here's the line that should really make you pause. One of the Daily Faceoff analysts, Matt Larkin, put it bluntly. Leaving Bouchard and rookie standout Matthew Schaefer off the Olympic roster may have cost Canada the gold medal. Canada lost that final by a single goal. 1 goal. And 2 players who bring exactly the kind of mobility and offensive firepower that swings tight games were both watching from home instead of being on the bench when it mattered most. Larkin's reasoning is simple. Schaefer brings elite skating and mobility. Bouchard brings a shot that can change a game from the blue line. And despite what old-school scouts might assume, both of them play sound defensive hockey too. They just don't do it in the traditional, physical, stay-at-home way that used to define a defensive defenseman. Hockey has changed, and apparently the people building these rosters are only now starting to catch up to that fact. So this time, for 2028, all 3 analysts are done leaving him off. Every single projection has Bouchard making the team. The disagreement isn't whether he belongs anymore, it's who he plays with. Larkin has him paired with Schaefer himself on the second pairing, essentially running back the exact combination Canada should have had all along. Maxwell instead slots him alongside Winnipeg's Josh Morrissey on the third pair, and Ellis pairs him with Vegas's Shea Theodore, also on the third pairing. 3 different pairings, 3 different philosophies, but the same conclusion. Bouchard isn't a bubble name anymore. He's a piece Canada is building around. Here's where it gets personal for Oilers fans, because there's a third name in this conversation, and his story sounds almost identical to Bouchard's. Zach Hyman. Just like Bouchard, Hyman was left off both the 4 Nations roster and the Olympic roster, despite performances that made plenty of people question the decision at the time. He didn't make any of the 3 projected 2028 rosters outright, but he was mentioned as a legitimate name in the conversation, someone worth watching as the tournament gets closer. And if there's one thing Hyman has built a reputation for in Edmonton, it's making people regret betting against him. And that's really the theme running through this entire exercise, isn't it? 2 years ago, the eye test said Bouchard and Hyman belonged. The results said otherwise. Now the projections suggest the hockey world has caught up to what Oilers fans already knew. It raises an uncomfortable question too. How many other players around the league are being underrated right now for the exact same reasons? The question is whether Canada's actual decision-makers have caught up too, or whether we're heading toward déjà vu. It's easy to brush this off as just a projection, years away from matching. But rosters like this shape real conversations. They shape trade value, contract leverage, and how a player's entire season gets framed nationally. When 3 separate analysts working independently all agree that a player belongs, and all agree he was wrongly left off the last 2 rosters, that's not noise. That's a pattern, and patterns are usually a lot harder to ignore than one person's opinion. And for Edmonton, this is about more than just individual accolades. It's validation. It says the identity this team has built, elite offense from the top down, mobile puck-moving defensemen, forwards who do the dirty work and still produce, isn't just working in the regular season. It's the exact identity international hockey is starting to demand. And it's a big reason why teams around the league have started copying pieces of Edmonton's blueprint. So here's where we land. McDavid is a lock, and rightfully so. Bouchard has gone from being snubbed twice to being unanimous. And Hyman is knocking on the door, waiting for the hockey world to stop making the same mistake twice. 2028 is still years away, plenty will change, and rosters like this will be rebuilt a dozen times before puck drop. But if you're an Oilers fan, this is a good problem to have. Watching the conversation shift from, why isn't he on the team, to of course he's on the team. Now I want to know what you think. Which Oiler do you think earns a spot that isn't on this list yet? And more importantly, after 2 straight snubs, do you actually trust Canada's decision-makers to get this one right this time? Drop your pick in the comments, and if you want more breakdowns like this as the World Cup roster picture develops, make sure you're subscribed, because this conversation is only going to heat up from here.